Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello again, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. A couple things I couldn't get to yesterday. I was so busy with that Netflix's Joke Comedy Festival. Whew, what a lineup. Anyway, Netflix has been busy. They released the trailer for the terribly titled Beverly Hills Cop Axel F., the fourth film in the popular Beverly Hills Cop series. Why not just call it Beverly Hills Cop 4, which we're all going to call it, right? Anyway, it'll be out in the summer. I would share the trailer with you, but it has lots of music in it, and that'll get me in trouble with the music people, so can't share it with you. I watched the trailer. It looks fun. I mean, if Netflix puts that in front of me, I'll probably watch it almost immediately. It's been 30 years since Beverly Hills Cop 3. Can you do the math? Yeah, 1994. Eddie Murphy is back as a Detroit cop solving crimes in Beverly Hills. I wonder why he never retired. It's been minimum 30 years. He should have a pretty nice pension. Judge Reinhold and John Ashton also return as local cops Lieutenant Billy Rosewood and Sergeant John Taggart. Eddie Murphy told People, "It's a really physical movie. I had to do some physical stuff. I like to be on the couch. I don't like to be jumping over and shooting and running. And I had to do some jumping and shooting and running. And as a result, at the end of the movie, I had a knee brace and my back is messed up. But the movie's going to be special. Looking forward to that one." Kevin Hart went, 16 hours without announcing a new thing. Well, he's announced a new thing. Peacock and Kevin Hart are stepping into the boxing ring, says the Hollywood Reporter. Peacock has ordered a limited series titled Fight Night, the $1 Million Heist. This will tell the story of an armed robbery orchestrated around Muhammad Ali's 1970 comeback fight in Atlanta. This already sounds awesome. Kevin Hart will star in the series and serve as an executive producer, presumably not playing Muhammad Ali. I think that would be a stretch. It's a limited TV series, not a movie. The official logline. The series will tell the infamous story of how an armed robbery during the night of Muhammad Ali's historic 1970 comeback fight changed not only one man's life, but an entire city's destiny. Is it infamous? I've never heard of this story, and there's a good chance that just how math works that I'm older than you are. The story centers on the hustler at the center of the robbery and the detective, one of the first black Atlanta police officers to rise to that rank. So we'll see who Kevin is playing, and we'll see who plays Ali. Maybe Ali's not even in the movie. Who knows? Leo Reich has his new special on HBO today. It is called Literally Who Cares? Leo was on the Last Laugh podcast. Leo is aware that none of us have heard of him. He said the trailer for the show came out a couple of days ago, and the top comment on the video was like, "This guy doesn't even have 10,000 Instagram followers. Why the F does he have an HBO special?" He laughed and said, "I was like, yeah, absolutely. I could have written that. That's so true." The show includes several musical interludes. Bo Burnham's Inside is one inspiration. Written during the pandemic, Leo says the dichotomy of being stuck at home during what was supposed to be the prime of his life helped inform the themes he decided to explore. He said, "It's totally a joke because, of course, in almost every way, it's one of the easiest times ever to be young, especially for me. Specifically, one of the easiest human lives that's ever been in the history of civilization is my life. But at the same time, you can't help but focus on the specific ways in which your own experiences are harder than they've ever been. It's ironic in the sense that I know I can order food on my phone to my door or whatever, but it isn't, in the sense of like, will there even be a world in 50 years? They asked him about Matt Rife because, I don't know, they're both under 30. I don't know why they asked him about Matt Rife, but he said, "I haven't seen that special, so I can't really comment on Matt Rife specifically because I don't really know his stuff. But I think in general, TikTok does prioritize different skills and a different way of writing and a different way of doing comedy. Leo is not a TikTok comedian. He says if you want to be successful on an app like TikTok, you really have to understand the algorithm and understand what section of the extremely atomized audience you're going to try and isolate and appeal to. And that's almost the opposite of what performing in comedy clubs is like, which is really starting from your atomized little group of your friends who you make laugh and using that as a base to try and find some kind of universalism, or at least right towards a more universal sense of humor on some level. I tried it out, meaning TikTok in the pandemic. I'd post clips and stuff of me doing stand-up and would occasionally attempt a character, but I'm so bad at it. But also the stuff that I liked just didn't get good responses, and the stuff that I thought was terrible and got amazing responses, I went, yeah, I mean, I could just lean into this and ruin my own ability to join my own output. That feels like a mistake at this juncture, and so I kind of backed off from the whole thing. Now, my goal for today is to watch lots and lots of comedy. I'm not sure if HBO is putting this out at 10 p.m. or if it's on, now, whenever now is in your life. But I want to watch lots of TV today. I've watched this trailer twice and it's not grabbing me at all. But also I have my best of the year list that I want to do. And I want to just record that now. But Ricky doesn't come out until Christmas and Trevor's not out yet. So I gotta wait. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check this one out. If I don't get to it today, maybe I'll get to it tomorrow after football. Speaking of Matt Rife, the Hindustan Times, which is your home for comedy news, they noticed that YouTuber Brooke Schofield was on that Canceled with Tana Mongo podcast on December 8th. Brooke shared how she found out that Matt Rife was cheating on her, and she found out through TikTok. Brooke said she saw photos of Rife with another woman taken during the time that she was dating him earlier this year. She DM'd the woman in the photo about the timeline of the romance, and they started comparing notes. She says there were timelines, there were Venn diagrams. We were comparing notes. It was so crazy. For a man who doesn't have time, this man had the most time. She said, I go to send Matt a little message. I wanted to get my facts straight. As if my facts aren't straight enough. And it wasn't even rude. I just sent him a text and I was like, how embarrassing is it that I'm literally currently getting dragged for defending you while also in a group chat with 7 other girlfriends you had? She says, he blocked my number. Blocking me is crazy. Brooke, who is described as an influencer, says she hopes that the stand-up star blocked her number to respect his current girlfriend, Jessica Lord, but then added he should unfollow the 2,000 porn stars he still follows to this day. Effing weirdo. Daniel Tosh spoke about cancel culture on his podcast. His take? I think it's great. Cancel people. I think people deserve it. You know, obviously it's not a real thing where like, oh, your livelihood is gone. As someone who's done things and said horrible things constantly, I've had backlash and I deserve it. There has to be consequences, and I also don't think there's a problem with evolving. And like, oh, I used to be able to say this and now I can't. Okay, well, fine, good. I'm okay with that. Tosh claimed he has never changed because of anything, and I guess we're going full circle here. He's thankful that none of his ex-girlfriends ever wrote an article criticizing him. From Inside Hook, the question, is social media killing stand-up comedy? Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube have been a boon to creators of comics. Their unintended consequences, however, have also been quite disruptive. Inside Hook says Billy Procida, a comedian with 15 years in stand-up, recently delivered a set in the nude at the Brooklyn Sex Club. This the naked comedy show I told you about recently. Billy joked, I recently had an affair with a married woman, takes a beat, and then says, also got in a fistfight with a married man. But the punchline's expected laughs were quickly undone by a woman who yelled out, no! Billy was like, well, okay, and this is not TikTok. I can hear you. That got a good laugh. I'm right here. There's no screen. He moved on to another bit. I slept with this woman recently. She's an older, and the woman yelled out, no, in the middle of the joke. Billy shared an Instagram video of the incident and with a caption that said, I was legit nervous. I was about to yell at a disabled chick. Over the crowd's gasps of disbelief, Billy referenced a real trend among TikTok users who may or may not have Tourette's syndrome and said, with the TikTok generation, you're all really into tics. So that's now, and then he stumbled and he changed his course and says, I'll stop because otherwise I'll want to yell at you. Then he said, with anyone under 25, I'm like, is this a disability or are you just annoying? The audience applauded, apparently. They were on his side, says Inside Hook. A number of comics say that heckling is on the rise. Graham Kay is a veteran comedian from Ottawa who said, I've heard from a lot of comics that audiences are more vocal. The things that get promoted on TikTok and Instagram are mostly crowd work videos, so people see people talking to the comedian and it normalizes it. The Hook reminds us sometimes comedians engage in crowd work, but that's generally not how stand-up shows work. The social contract accepted by most on either side of the mic is that the comic usually recites a string of words which may have been toiled over for months in front of other crowds who did not react positively because the bit had yet to be honed. Then eventually the audience is compelled to laugh. Kay talked about current audiences and said they've probably never been to a stand-up show, or they go once every 5 years and they don't know the culture. So when they go for their annual stand-up show, now they're talking more. Inside Hook says, developing just 10 minutes worth of jokes that are sure to amuse a variety of audiences each year was a relatively high standard for comedians a few decades ago. Back then, brief annual appearances on late-night TV shows was a primary goal, but nowadays, many performers work on an hour of new material over the course of a year or two. They hope to score a stand-up special or record an album, air on streaming platforms and radio, and still, posting even 30-second clips of their tried-and-true jokes once or twice a day on social media is unsustainable for comedians over the long term. That's where crowd work has come into being vogue. Kay says because algorithms favor short clips, many comedians will now include a controversial thesis statement in the initial stage of the setup. Comedians are starting to do comedy not for the live audience in front of them, but they're structuring their stand-up for a robot. The live audience is coming second to a digital audience. Colin Quinn discussed crowd work and said, it's like anything else. In the wrong hands, it can be faked, it can be manufactured. Yeah, I heard there is a comedian who has done a lot of comedian destroys heckler videos, and I heard 2 comedians suggesting that a lot of that is staged. I'll let them sort that out. Colin said, when it's really spontaneous, it's fine, but sometimes with these comedians I'm watching, and I'm like, hey, this person wasn't doing anything, and you're just bullying them, and you're just trying to get them to say something so you can abuse them. That's the other big crowd work trick. Nimesh Patel has a joke about taking an Uber from Kansas City to Omaha. Later, during the Q&A, a woman in the audience asked him how much the Uber ride cost, and he said, "I didn't actually take an Uber. It's just for the joke. Come on, lady. What the F?" Nimesh said he rolled out old performance clips he had on YouTube starting around June 2020, but it was on TikTok that took off. The first stand-up clip I put on there got like 800,000 views. I never had 800,000 views on anything ever before. Even if you were to sum up everything I'd ever posted, then I started feeding that machine like every day with a clip or two, and by March of 21, I had amassed like 80,000 followers. I'm sorry if I've participated in dumbing down audiences. Sorry if I've participated in causing people to heckle and all that. He was asked what part of that apology is sarcastic and which is authentic, and he said 100% on both. He now addresses the hecklers by telling the crowd, "Some of you might be here because you think I'm going to talk to you the entire time. That's not what this show is. I'm sorry I led you to believe that that's what this is." Sam Morril talked about posting to social media, and it was because of COVID. He said YouTube was really an act of desperation. It was like, I want people to see the work that I worked hard on. I'd been touring hard for an hour. You put a lot into it. If you're a real comic who does the road, you're honing it in a bunch of different cities, and you're sick all the time, and you're like, how do I nail this? I was one of the earlier comics just to put a special on YouTube, and I would definitely say I was one of the early ones who had done TV specials already. I didn't ever do this with the expectations of getting on Netflix. The expectation was hopefully people buy tickets to see me on the road. This is good. I'm going to pick up on more of this tomorrow. There's a little bit more here that I find interesting, specific to Instagram. And that's your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the show, tell a friend about it, and you can follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.